Namah Shivaya. Hello, children. As we have known a little bit about Sri Kanchi Paramacharya Swamiji's previous life and how he became a Peethadipati, let us know about the different names with which people call him. He is called as Kanchi Paramacharya, as I've already told you, and he's also called Mahaperiyava. Periyava means an elderly person, so Mahaperiyava means he's a very great elder. He's also called the Jagat Guru. Jagat Guru means that he is a guru for the entire world. And he is called Kanchi Shankaracharya because he is a descendant of that mutt. He is called Kanchi Shankaracharya. And he is also called Kanchi Mahaswamy. And he is called Kamakoti Peethadipati. And apart from all this, he is called the walking god. The person, he is a god, but he is a walking god, means a god whom we all can see. That is the name with which he is called. Well, there are many sannyasis in India, and why is he called the walking god? Let us look at some of the points. He has a very simple and austere life. Being a head of the Kanchi Mutt, he led the life of extreme simplicity. He is the head of that mutt, so he can have all the luxuries if he want. But he led a simple life. He always walks barefooted. When people do some diksha and all for 40 days, they don't wear any footwear. And Paramacharya ji lived like that for his entire life. He was walking barefooted. He was eating minimal food, very minimal food, and also very minimal personal possessions. Not like us. We have, a complete wardrobe. We have so many clothes, so many shoes, all these things. But he has minimal personal possessions, and he also has had unparalleled wisdom. He has a vast knowledge of Vedantas, Upanishads, all the Hindu scriptures, and many Dharma Shastras. He has a lot of knowledge, and he has compassion for all because he never differentiated people based on caste or wealth or their social status. He had love and concern to every living being. It is very difficult to give compassion like that. We have compassion towards our own family members, our friends, or maybe our relatives. Or maybe sometimes you see a stray dog on the road, maybe you will have some love and concern towards it. But he doesn't differentiate between any person. He has proved that in many situations. So that is the reason he is called God, because just like God doesn't have any difference between rich or poor or beautiful or ugly and all those things. The same way Paramacharya ji was like that. And he was on a continuous pilgrimage. He traveled extensively on foot across India. He traveled on foot. You have to remember and underline these words because sannyasis travel like that. So that is the reason he was traveling on foot. And wherever he is going, he is trying to spread spiritual knowledge. He's trying to revive temples, because most of the temples, sometimes when nobody is taking care of the temple will be losing its grandeur. Those temples he used to take care and again revive those temples. So now you should get it out. Why is reviving a temple important? Because that is the place where any person who has inclination towards God, when he goes to the temple, he tries to get some energy or some blessing from the God. And that happens when a small place is there and there is a temple. If that is it is in a good condition, many people will go there and try to change their lives. That's the reason a temple is very important for any town or a village. That is the reason he used to revive those old temples. Also, he always guided people towards a life of righteousness. And above all, he is a living example of Sanatana Dharma, because every action of his, it reflected selflessness and devotion towards God and detachment towards anything around him. So this is the true essence of a Jivan Mukta. A Jivan Mukta is a person who is liberated while he is still alive. He is still alive, but he is liberated from all these worldly things. That is a very difficult task to achieve. Of course, there are many people like that in India, but most of them don't come into the public places. They stay somewhere in Himalayas or some hills or mountains, and they do their tapas. They don't come to people. They have their own place. But we can see only a few people who have come into the public, who are speaking to people, who are among us. He's staying among us. We can come, we can see him, we can seek his blessings, we can seek his suggestions. So such kind of people are very rare to find, because they don't have any necessity to stay in the society, but still he is staying with us because he wants to help people around him. That is the greatest sacrifice that he is doing. So that is the reason he is called walking god. That is a famous name. He is famous in across the world, not just in India, not just in Tamil Nadu. Across the world, he is famous, and everybody calls him the walking god. So these are all the different names that are given to Paramacharya. In the previous episode, I have talked about their official website, kamakoti.org. There are many incidents that were mentioned in that website. If you are interested, you can go and read them. I'm trying to quote some of them. One such example is about how Paramacharya has shown his grace in one of the devotees' life. One 18-year-old girl and her cousin, they could get a chance of a special darshan of Paramacharya in the year 1953. Way back in 1953, just after independence. At that time, these two girls went to him. And that girl, when she was asked what you're doing and all those things, she said, I passed Praveshika in Hindi. In Hindi, we have different exams. Praveena, Praveshika, Praveena, all those things. So she passed that after completing her school final. She and wrote this Hindi exam and got the Praveshika certificate. And then listening to that, Paramacharya said, Hindi would not be of any use to you in your life, because if you fail to improve English, you might repent for it later. So it is better if you learn English. But she was not willing to do that. She didn't, at that point of time in 1953, passing a school final and passing Praveshika in Hindi itself is a big task for a girl. Now he's asking her to learn English also, but she was very unwilling um, to do any job at that particular point of time. What is the ultimate goal for a girl? After you attain a certain age, you get married, become a good housewife, become a good mother. That is the only thing. Why should she take up a job at that time? But some he was foreseeing some tragedies that are going to happen in her life. So that is the reason he asked her to learn that, but she was unwilling. And he asked, how to prepare appalams. You know what is an appalam? It is, you call papad in English. It is like a fritter, some kind of a fritter. So he was telling, even if you sold 100 appalams for 7 rupees, maybe you should be able to survive. You should be preparing many appalams in a day. This is what he was saying. She wasn't understanding. What is he talking about? Why is he talking about appadams? Why is he talking about taking up a job and learning English? All these things. She was not willing to do all that. So she didn't understanding what he was saying. So when he said all these things, instead of seeking Paramacharya's guidance for her future life, she felt so confused and she wanted to get away from that place immediately. This happens with every one of us even now. If you talk to somebody and they are that person is very great and he knows something about future, he tries to give some advice. If we are not interested in that, we don't want to listen to that, right? We don't want to seek their guidance or advice. If some elders come to our house and they tell something, oh, you're doing this is nice, beta, but you do this one. They tell something. You don't want to listen to that. You just want to leave that place, leave that room, go inside and have fun. That is what happens with every one of us. In the same way, that 18-year-old girl was also like that. She didn't want to stay there. So Paramacharya understood what she was thinking. So he offered both the girls a banana as prasadam. When somebody goes to Swamiji, they give prasadam, right? So they promptly refused the prasadam also. See, Paramacharya ji giving the prasadam and a girl refusing that. You know how it is? Because she was so confused. What is the Swamiji telling all these things? I don't want to eat this banana also. And after that also, Swamiji was so kind enough and he repeated his advice. And also he told them to take their lunch at the mutt itself, because many people come there and they have their lunch over there. But that also they didn't listen. They didn't take the banana, they didn't have their lunch. See, everything is a prasadam. When you take prasadam, why do you take prasadam? Because God's blessings are there in that prasadam. When you eat that, you get that energy. So it helps us in many ways. But she was not ready to accept that prasadam also. So this happened and she left. After that, a series of tragedies started happening in very quick succession in her life. So, as I told you, this happened in 1953. So, after that, 4 years after that, in 1957, she got married against her wish. Maybe she was not interested in that marriage, but she was married to a person. And there was no understanding between the husband and wife. Always there was a lot of misunderstanding and turmoil between those two. They had a son, and he was the next year they had a son. So slowly, after the son was born, okay, something life has improved a little bit. And again, after 3 years, a girl was born, a girl child. Now, this girl child, when she was in eighth month, polio affected her. At that time, people used to get polio. Now, luckily, we all have vaccinations and we don't see any polio children now. But at that time, in the eighth month, this girl was affected with polio, and that polio attack has paralyzed the girl. So now again, problems have started. Initially, there was a problem with the marriage, and maybe after the children were born, they were a bit happy. Again, now there is a polio attack for the girl. And by the time this daughter has turned 12, the husband died of cancer in 1973. Okay, so this is exactly 20 years after she has gone there. Remember, she went to Paramacharya in 1953, and now in 1973, so 20 years. So Paramacharya knows everything, past, future, present, everything. So he knew what is going to happen. That's the reason he was suggesting her to learn something, to do a job, all those things. So he knows that she is going to get married and the husband is going to die. So now the husband died of cancer. So they have very little amount in savings. Any employee, we live on a monthly salary only. So when the salary stops coming, it is very difficult. So they have very little savings in their bank. She has two children, and in the two children, one is a crippled one. It is very difficult for her. At that juncture, this lady, now she realized the true meaning of Paramacharya's words exactly 20 years before what he said. But still, Paramacharya has given his blessings and his grace on to her, because her father, I mean, her husband was a central government employee. That is the reason, and he also had a very good name in the throughout his service. Because of that, this lady was offered a clerical job within a month of her husband's death by the government. So that is also Paramacharya's grace. So she could get a job. And to her surprise, at that particular point of time, that is 20 years after that conversation, 100 appalams were being sold at the rate of 7 at that point of time. See how shocking and surprising the things are. And that is the reason when elders talk, there is a lot of information and meaning to that. We fail to understand that, but there is a lot of meaning when he was talking that. And once she joined the office, she understood that Hindi was of no use to her. That is what he was saying. English should be known, because for everything we use English in office, but she didn't know English much. So it was very difficult for her to draft notes and all. It was very difficult. Every day she used to cry in front of Paramacharya's photo, every day. What is this? I haven't listened to you. I paid a deaf ear. She was crying like that. See, again, Paramacharya has shown his grace. First thing, within 1 month, she got the job. Now, the second thing is that she was transferred to a department where maths was more essential than English. So, After she was transferred there, she was very comfortable now. She need not draft any notes in English, only you need to do some calculations, which was easier for her. So she was very happy. And after that, for the next years also, she had very few internal transfers, and she always got posted in positions where English is not very much required. See, all these appear to be very small things, but this is where our life becomes chaotic when there is a problem. In your daily life, if you're, for example, if you're going to school, you read all the six or seven subjects. Suddenly, you go to your intermediate. You didn't know that you dislike this subject, but you have taken some subject. For example, math. You don't like math, but you have taken NPC. You know how difficult it is for every day you go, you have to do that math, but you don't like math. When things like this happen, it appears to be a small thing, but it is very big thing for the person who is experiencing that. That's the reason um, she had this problem, but finally that was solved because of Paramacharya ji. And after that, after her husband died, maybe after a year, one day she took both her children to Kalavai, where Paramacharya was staying at that time, because I said they go to places, different places. When he was camping in that place, she came to know and she went along with her children. But you know how fate was. When they that day, Parmacharya was in Maunavrata. You know, Maunavrata, sometimes they maintain silence for the whole day. So he was doing that Maunavrata. So on that day, when there is Maunavrata, he doesn't talk to anyone. He just came out, gave a few minutes of the darshan to everybody. He blessed everyone silently and went away. After a few minutes, somebody came out from the mud. Some people will be there. No, they came out and they said that Parmacharya is in Maunavrata, so no one should disturb him. So all of you have to leave. So on hearing these words, whoever others who have come, they chose to leave that place and go back, because anyway he's not going to meet anyone. But this lady, she wasn't willing to leave, because she was crying silently, because she was remembering the past that has happened. She came there, she refused the prasadam that was given, she paid deaf ear to whatever suggestions he was giving. Now when she came, she couldn't talk to him, so she was crying silently, and she has taken an extreme step now. Whatever happens, I'll sit here until Paramacharya calls me and talk to me. Until then, I'm not going to leave. Maybe it may take 1 or 2 more days. If he is on Maunavrata today, tomorrow he'll talk to us, so I can talk to him. Tomorrow also, if he is following that, day after tomorrow. Only after meeting him, I'll go from here. That's the reason she sat along with both the children. The children were very small, they didn't know the mother was sitting, so they were also sitting. So the other two, three families who have left to the bus stand, they saw that this family also came, but they didn't come along with us. Maybe they are having some special darshan with the Paramacharya Swamiji. So let us go back and we also can meet him. So they went back. They didn't know all this. She was only sitting there, but they came back. Now something surprising happened. One more, again another person from the mutt has come out, and he announced that whoever is facing severe problems in their life, they can meet Paramacharya ji and seek his blessings. So for the first few minutes, nobody understood who is having the highest problems. Who knows that? So everybody were thinking about that, and they were discussing among themselves, whether we have to go inside or not. Then finally, they understood that only this is the only family having so many problems. So the other families declared loudly that by His grace, they were all quite peaceful in their lives and they don't have any problems. They came only for His blessings. Then finally, it is obvious that this is the only family with the problems. So they were allowed to get inside. So even after getting the permission to visit him, it is not very easy because he was seated somewhere inside. They had to go a long distance through the garden on an uneven ground. Remember, the daughter is crippled, so it is not easy, and it is raining very heavily. So in that heavy rain, this woman started carrying her daughter, and with great difficulty, the woman and her son, both of them carried the daughter, and they at last went into the room where Paramacharya was staying. So as soon as she went there, she fell on his feet and she started shaking from head to toe. It was very difficult for her to control. And she started crying continuously, uncontrollably, in a very loud voice. And then she told all the problems that she was having, and seeked his blessings. So he repeatedly assured that you will be fine, don't worry, you can manage your children single handedly, you can take care of both your children. And he gave his blessings. After that, within the next 6 years, maybe some small problems everybody will be getting in their life, that is fine. But after 7 years, the son and the daughter both secured very good jobs and settled well in their lives. So, what can we learn from this? When she was an 18-year-old young girl, she paid a deaf ear to Swamiji's words. But when reality struck, she has seen all the problems. Then she understood his words. But you have to observe that she never left his feet. She was always praying him. She was always asking for his blessings. And with his support, she was able to cross all the obstacles she was facing. And she faced them. See, there are many people, when such problems arise, they suddenly get depressed and they stop working. See how my life has become, and they start blaming people. But you have to learn from this lady. She hasn't done all that. She was only seeking strength and support from God and from Paramacharya ji. And she struggled all her way through to bring up her children and settle them in their lives. And this whole story is narrated by her daughter. I said the person who is affected by polio. This daughter has narrated this story in one of the articles in Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham's website. Okay, if you're interested, you can also go there and get first hand information. So, children, again in the next episode, we'll learn some more interesting facts about Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Swamiji. Bye.